My wife's birthday's coming up, and one thing that she's been talking about, she saw this on Facebook, is they make this little tray that you set your Keurig on. We have a Keurig coffee maker, and it sets up under the cabinet, so when you want to fill it with water, it's kind of a pain. You've got to pull it out. It's got those rubber feet on it, so it doesn't slide very easily, and you end up kind of spilling water. And she saw this. It looks like a tray, and you set it on this tray, and the tray has runners on it, or drawer pulls, and it essentially pulls out, and you can fill it and then push it back in toward the wall, and it's very, very neat. What I'm going to do tonight is I've kind of drawn up a little rough sketch, nothing much, it's just on a piece of paper. I'll show it to you. I'm going to go ahead tonight and build it's like a three-sided box without a lid. You know, you've got your top, and then you've got two sides and a front on this box, so you can't see anything underneath. I'm going to get that built tonight so that I can go and pick up some drawer pulls, and then I'll take some measurements. And once I've got the drawer pulls, so I know how thick they are, I'll take some measurements and build the undercarriage that the drawer pulls will mount to. And I'll probably put some rubber feet on that so that it doesn't slide on the counter. And then I can paint it up, and we can use it for filling our Keurig. So I think she's going to like it. She doesn't know I'm going to make this, so I'm not going to be releasing this video until after I've given it to her. But I wanted to go ahead and record it because I think it's kind of a cool idea, and I think some of you may have the same issue with your Keurig or other coffee maker, and this may be something that can benefit you, or some other home appliance for that matter. So let me show you my plan. Here's my plans. It's pretty simple. It'll be a three-sided box, nice solid surface. The back will be open because it will slide over this little racking system, and this is what will sit on the counter and have some rubber feet under it so that it doesn't move. This drawer will be able to pull out and slide back. I planned on this being about 10 inches by 14. I think it's going to end up being about 13 by like 9.5 because I'm kind of limited by the wood that I have on hand right now, but I was kind of fat on my measurements, so I really don't think that's going to make a whole lot of difference. Tonight what I want to do is get started on this box. Once I get this box built, then I'll know what my inside dimensions are. I can flip it upside down. I can take my measurements, subtract what it's going to take for the rails, which will be mounted here and here on the inside. You can see I've kind of drawn a little slot here, so it'll be on the outside of my racking system, or my track system, on the inside of the box, so there won't be any visible rails. You'll just slide this right out, fill your Keurig, slide it right back, and you're good to go. I'm going to start out by cleaning up the two outside edges of my board. I have checked the sides, and they are perfectly square, but you can see where we kind of have a little bit of a nasty cut there. This side's not as bad, but I'm going to go ahead and just take a hair off of it to square it up or make it look nice. I've decided to go ahead and make my sides and my front piece 2.5 inches tall. My idea behind that is the top piece that's going to slide into this, the piece of plywood on top, is going to be 3/4 of an inch, so I'm down to 1 3/4 inches. I'm figuring that a drawer pull will be about 1 inch in height, so that should give me plenty of room to center that underneath of this and allow it to smoothly slide in and out. I don't want to make it too much taller than that because then it's going to be getting into the bottom of the cabinet. Here's a basic mock-up of what this will look like. This is the top, so I'll bring this up and I'll go ahead and glue it and pin nail it. Then we'll get it sanded down nice and smooth. We'll patch any holes, get it looking really good. And then of course, this will be against the back wall. The railing will be under here and it'll just slide forward just like a drawer to pull the Keurig in and out away from the wall. What I want to do now is go ahead and get this put together and get the glue on it so it can start drying, and then tomorrow we'll pick up our drawer pulls and start working on the underside. I'm going to start by getting my sides attached, and I'm going to use a little longer board just to kind of help me to be able to square everything up. So we'll lay this out of the way for now. Go ahead and get some glue spread on both sides of my plywood. I'm going to flip this over. That's the top. I'm going to flip my sides over so that I can line it up like this. Put a couple clamps on there. All right, I feel like I've got it as square as I can get it across the front. And I'm going to go ahead and shoot some brads in it. A little cleanup on the glue there, that won't be bad. Let's go ahead and get the front piece glued on. I picked up a small tub of wood filler from my local big box store, and I'm going to go ahead now and fill in all these cracks. I'm just going to use a brass putty knife because it won't damage the wood, and that'll also help me force some of this filler down into the gap between the two boards. I've gone over the entire surface of the box. This particular filler goes on purple and then it dries clear. So I'm just going to set this aside, make sure everything's good and dry, and then we'll give it a nice clean sanding and make sure the surface is as smooth as it can possibly be. I let this set for a couple of hours and it looks like the wood filler is completely dry. I put a little 120 grit sandpaper on my sander and I'm just going to run over this and smooth it out. I want to go ahead and apply a coat of primer. We'll let that dry really well and then we'll come back and put our paint on. I think the primer will just help it stick a little better and give me a much more even coat with the paint. Now we'll just let that go ahead and dry. The other nice thing about adding the primer is if there are any dents in the wood or any of the cracks that didn't fill well, I'll be able to see that and I can go ahead and put another coat of the wood filler on there and get that straightened out before I go to paint. I've given the primer plenty of time to dry and the surface feels really nice. I don't see any damaged spots or any sunken in spots where I might need some more wood filler. So I think what I'm going to do is just take some 240 sandpaper and just lightly rub it over the surface of the box to take down any little nubbins that might be on the box. I don't think it needs a real heavy sanding, just a light rub down. And then I believe we'll be ready to go ahead and start applying the actual paint. I'm going to get this dusted off and I'm going to put it aside. I'm not going to apply the paint until I get the base built and get the drawer slides installed. That way if I scuff it up, I don't have to worry about it. I can just lightly hit it with a 220 again and go ahead and put the final coat of paint right on top of it. I picked up a couple of 12-inch full extension drawer slides. I've separated the front section from the runner and I'm going to go ahead now. This is the perfect height. It matches perfectly along the side of my box. So I'm going to press it all the way up against the front of the box and I'm going to get 3 screws put in this runner to mount them. I'm ready to build my base and I'm going to start with the 2 side pieces that will be bolted to the runners of the drawer slides. I'm just going to use this piece of plywood and what I'm going to do is cut it to the same thickness as this drawer slide. My idea behind that is I want the bottom of this to be perfectly level all the way across because I'm going to put some little rubber feet on it. That'll raise it up just enough for this to slide above the countertop without catching. I've lined my slide up with the runner and I'm going to go ahead and put a clamp here just to hold everything in place while I shoot a screw through the back end of the slide. Now I can go ahead and slide it the rest of the way out and shoot the screw in the center. I'll do the same thing on this side and then we'll just remove the slide to put the final screw in. With the first drawer slide installed, we'll just repeat the process for the left side. Now that we have our drawer slides installed and functioning properly, it's time to turn our attention to the cross members. There'll be two, one in the front, one in the back, and they will be exactly 5.5 inches and exactly 5.5 inches. For these cross members, what I've done is I've made them where they're a little shorter than the outside dimension of the two runners. My plan is to raise them up level with the bottom runner. That way there's no friction against the top of the drawer. I'm going to back a screw out of each side of this drawer slide, and I'm going to replace it with a little bit longer screw and some wood glue. Once that sets up, it should be pretty solid. I need to make sure I keep this square, so I'm going to bring the box in . I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of acrylic white paint on here. This is relatively close to the paint of the color of our cabinets. It may not be exact, but it's going to be extremely close. I think the first coat looks really good. I'm anticipating a minimum of 2 coats, possibly 3. I'm going to let this set and dry. I'm going to go clean my brush, and we'll take a look at it tomorrow and see if it needs a second coat. I am almost finished with this project. When the builders installed the cabinets in our home, this door pull was left over. I had it stuck back in a drawer thinking I'd find a use for it one day, and I believe I have that use. I'm going to mount it right to the front of this slider so that I can grab it and pull it out away from the wall. I'm going to use my punch and now I'm ready to go ahead and drill the proper size hole to attach my cabinet pull. I've got my slider installed in the kitchen, and I've got the coffee pot on top of it. Now before installing it, I could raise the fill door all the way up. The problem was I could not get the gallon of water in to fill it without spilling water all over the counter. Now we can simply pull the coffee maker out away from the wall, raise the fill door. There's plenty of room to fill it. When it's completely full, we can very easily push it back under the cabinet out of the way. We're not sliding it on the counter, so the water's not splashing around in the refill reservoir, and we're not making a mess on our counter. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop for this little project. I had a really good time making it. My wife, when I gave it to her, was very surprised. She had no idea I was building it. I managed to slip that in under the radar, but she absolutely loves it because it's so simple to pull the coffee maker out away from the wall, fill it, and push it back, and not make any mess whatsoever. We're not losing any additional space on the counter because I kept it within the dimensions of the coffee maker, so we still have plenty of room for our toaster or anything else we might want to put on that counter. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon, and have a great evening, everybody.